Hello, everyone, and welcome back to We Bought a Mic, a pop culture lumen cast, where we don't remember anything before we stepped into this pod studio. Our whole lives have been in this pod studio.
I wish.
Wait,
man.
we leave the pod studio?
Yeah, those are our outies. There's a message from your outie. We'll play
It's crazy
at the end of the show.
because my the Jewish side of me would indicate that I'm actually an innie.
Oh boy.
Circumcision joke, everybody. Hey, there we go.
That was good.
Yeah, thank you. Been sitting on that one. Actually, I haven't.
We're talking Severance today. Welcome. My name is Ernest.
I am innie hunter.
And I'm Drewly. Drewly. I don't know. I'm excited to talk about Severance. Is what I am. I've been, we've been sitting on this for a while. The season ended pretty recently. Apple TV. But we've mentioned it multiple times on pod, saying like, hey, like, just like putting the alarm up.
Mm-hmm.
We talked about it.
Want to watch it?
We talked about it a good bit when it first started, when we had like maybe the first 2 episodes under our belts, and I remember us being very intrigued by it. And it's crazy to think like how much the show changed since those episodes, because it was still very, very much contained in the same world, in the same space, but so much has happened that it deserves its whole full-on discussion in its own episode. So we're going to give very brief, spoiler-free thoughts right up top here, and then we're going to dive into like a full-on spoiler-heavy discussion. So right away, we all recommend this show. Please check it out. It's on Apple TV Plus. But why do we recommend it? Just a few quick words before we spoil the hell out of it. What makes it worth people's time?
So
go no.
Okay.
No. Your so was a lot more definitive.
Yeah, I took a deeper breath than you, so that's usually how we differ. Like who gets these, who gets
posture,
the tiebreaker.
man. You said earlier,
dude, that's right. I got. We're sitting in chairs today, boys.
So,
So like the thing is with the show that it gets right, and we talked about it, I think, on mic whenever we were kind of doing these little touch points on it throughout the season, that kind of the closest contemporary comparison for this is something like Devs. The difference between something like this and something like Devs is, at the end of the day, this is much more of a human story. It's much more interested in telling human themes, where Devs can do the thing where, as much as I love the guy Alex Garland, sometimes he can kind of get lost in the nitty gritty of the sci-fi story that he's telling.
He's not. I don't think he's good at writing the humanity.
Yeah,
part.
he's not really good at writing people. And this show is incredible at writing its characters. And not only that, it's not to say that it's disinterested in the sci-fi elements, because it definitely is. And there are like Reddit threads devoted to theorizing and everything else like that. But at the end of the day, this is not a show about severance. This is a show about grief. Yeah. And that's kind of what makes this ring a lot more true than some other shows that could be contemporary too.
If you don't know, the basic premise is a group of people who work at a company that has developed technology to basically separate your work self from your home self. So that when you are at work, you are essentially a different person. Yeah. And the show really digs into that idea of like, are you really a different person?
Well, and that's the aspect that makes it so we can compare it to Devs or Westworld, right? Season 1 especially, is it's diving into like what it makes a human a human. Yeah. These aren't like robotically constructed other selves that are in the severed world. They just don't know. They even know that they're the other half of a real person and that they're not technically like quote unquote real. They just don't know what happens outside of work.
They know that they have a life that they're not privy to.
Yeah, exactly. And sometimes we're not privy to it, which is very fun.
Yeah.
A lot of characters, we don't know what the fuck's going on with them.
Yeah, we mainly follow Adam Scott. He's like the main one.
Who rocks. But yeah, it's so for me, it's in the right sweet spot of There's a lot, you know, it is high concept. It's very high concept. It is sci-fi.
It doesn't get lost in the weeds.
Well,
though,
no, because
which I think Devs did a little bit.
It did, just because when you leave like an auteur, like, you know, sort of mechanical brain person to write the script, they are obsessed with rules. They're obsessed with they're obsessed with fleshing out their fantasy world that they've created, and what gets lost is the fact that you're supposed to be telling a story inside of it. And this show never feels like it's losing the story inside of it, even when things get really plot heavy.
Yeah,
because there's a ton of plot in this too. It's not navel gazy. It can't be, because we really quickly get into a plot of these severed characters learning more information about like the outside world, and like slowly like having desires and things like that.
It becomes a quest to find out more.
And we also, especially as the season goes on, spend a lot of time with the outside world characters like that we know of, which is mostly, like you said, Adam Scott, who's Mark, him and his family. So there's so much happening that it's really impressive that a sci-fi show with heavy plot can stay grounded in character movement. Like that is
the big triumph.
That's the achievement of the show to me. It was. I mentioned one of the other times we were talking about it, because when we first talked about the show, I was like, I mean, yeah, this is like, I'm sure that this pilot like is perfect. It was probably just written by some like NYU guy. He's really young. Turns out it's not. This guy Dan Erickson. He does have like a fucking MFA in film, so I don't want to discount him completely. But in the way that Hollywood works, he is an outlier. He's an extreme outlier. He wrote this script. It's been floating around for years, just in piles since like 2018, I want to say.
But he based it off of working in cubicles, working in office spaces.
Yeah.
Like his mind was ruminating in these ideas while he wasn't working in television.
Exactly. And so the pilot for the show is perfection. It's impeccable. It has like time jumps and flashbacks and things, and it's perfectly like legible as a viewer. Like
directed by Ben Stiller.
Yeah, like most of the episodes here, especially the beginning and ending episodes, which are the strongest ones. He directs the fuck out of it. Another, I think, underrated achievement of the show is that it is so oriented around that the idea of your cubicle work self versus your home self, and yet it doesn't feel like it's a part of that Gen X like breed of films, like almost like Fight Club, actually a lot like Fight Club, like the movie Wanted, like where it's like, don't you just wish you didn't have to work in this fucking cubicle?
You need to rebel against the man.
It doesn't feel like that. It feels fresher. It feels more modern. I think one of the big reasons for that is that it's not a period piece, but it is. Because we're
the retro future.
Yeah, we're in an alternate universe in terms of technology. So like the office world that we're dealing in is like an insane sci-fi version of like maybe the late 80s, early 90s.
Very early computer tech.
Yeah, and that also bears out sometimes in the real world with certain aesthetics, like the cars they drive, things like that. That helps the show a lot. If we were dealing with like modern cubicles, it would have such a different feel. The computers they're working on, the work they're doing on the computers is one of my favorite parts of the whole show. It's such a good look.
It somehow like just doesn't date itself in any way. Like there is no sense of place and time. Like is this just like the modern day that they're working in? And this is just kind of the system that they have whenever they're like, you are
by design.
Even like whenever
80s.
we do see glimpses of the outside world, the world outside of Lumen, there's no real sense of time and place. Like it kind of feels outside, like tangential, like kind of modern-ish. Maybe something that could exist in the next
there's still
50 years or so.
Yeah, there's still like they have smartphones. Like there's it is modern. It's just alternate modern. It almost feels like the type of show where like in season 2 we could find out that it's 2022 except like the Russians won World War II or something. You know what I mean? It feels like that type of thing where there's just like this.
All the Apple TV shows take place in the Apple TV universe.
They all take place in Man from High Tower for some reason.
Yeah,
it's
Ted
just
Lasso's over there somewhere.
It feels like a really well thought out like butterfly effect show where like things could have turned out this way, they didn't quite. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's
as if Hillary got elected. All right.
It's a
Adam Scott's still with her.
Yeah, he is.
Jill Stein.
I do want to say real quick before we actually get into more things with the show itself. Adam Scott's somebody who I always loved in things.
He's never had like a main character.
Well, that's the thing is he kind of leveled up in my mind after watching the show. Like I did not think that he had this in him. I truly did not like really love the guy. Of course, like big comedy guy. If you like are in on
Step Brothers,
not just like Step Brothers and
Parks and Rec
and stuff like that. But like if you like comedy and listen to like something like Comedy Bang Bang or anything like
you
that,
talking you two to me,
exact.
Are you talking REM Remy?
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, he's
talking heads to my talking heads.
He's sort of ended up in this world of like alt comedy, which he's very good at, but that was never his intention with like becoming an actor.
Mm-hmm.
He is classically trained and he wanted to be a dramatic actor. He just is funny. And
he has a funny look.
He has a funny look. He has a funny voice. He has a funny delivery because it's sort of slow and like very deliberate. He almost reminds me of friend of the pod Colin sometimes, and how his delivery just like makes you laugh.
Yeah, kind of a flat. Yeah,
he's just a funny guy. However, he is like in terms of a thinker, like as a producer, he has a production company that he runs with his wife. It makes sense that he would get cast in this because Ben Stiller was behind this, someone who also was very famously pigeonholed into comedy when he wanted to do drama.
Yeah, specifically wanted to be a director.
Yeah. So yeah, it makes perfect sense for him to get this. That said, you don't know if he's going to be able to stick the landing, and he absolutely does. He's so good in he's really good in this. To the point of insanity at certain points, because I think one of the hallmark traits of the show, I think one of the things that this show is best at, which is mostly a Stiller direction thing, is shifting moods in a half second.
Yeah,
it can go straight from lighthearted to like really, really settling, like unsettling, like hair-raising moments. And a lot of that takes place in close-ups on Adam Scott's face.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Like just full on emotional acting with a face that it's not like he has giant eyes or anything super expressive. He's just a good actor.
Especially because he's essentially playing two different characters.
And they feel like two distinct characters.
Yeah, his faces look vastly different when he's each guy, and his voices are different, his posture is different. He put a lot of thought into the character. Like something really early that I wrote down that I just appreciated as like this is like a guy. He's not coasting on like this part is at one point in like Ep 2 he has a band-aid on his head, and he gets a note. He's his Audi sees a note that just says like, hey, you hit your head, so there's a band-aid on your temple. And Adam Scott, his choice as an actor is he immediately reaches for his temple, but the band-aid's not quite there. It's like right here. But he's thinking in the moment as an actor, and it's like a little detail thing. That once you start noticing that with him, where he's like, what? And then he like slowly finds it. Most actors would honestly just go straight because they know where the fucking Band-Aid is. Right. You know what I mean? He has the little
he
has a lot of little measured choices that make sense in this show, because the whole show, like Ben Stiller is a very measured director.
Yeah.
I know. So you want to like take your Ben Stiller victory lap out here as you've been on Escape from Dannemora Island for the last 5 years?
That's me. I mean, I knew when we did our best TV of the decade pod, I put Escape at Dannemora at my number 10 slot because I knew, I was like, this is special. That something's brewing here, where he came out of nowhere in my eyes as a behind the camera talent. I know he had done other things. I know he directed like
Cable
Zoolander and Cable Guy, but this is something else entirely. This is not Zoolander, Cable Guy land. This is very much a very fine tuned, detailed oriented director.
And that show got crazy love. It was just mostly critical. It didn't get viewership.
It's an incredible show.
Yeah,
it is.
And it's a miniseries. Yeah,
it is fucking incredible. And I put it at the number 10 slot as a way to kind of like, kind of sound that alarm a little bit of like, hey, Ben Stiller's here. He's arrived, and whatever he does next is going to be great. And I didn't even know about this. Like, I don't think this was even greenlit or announced back then. And now here we are, 2022, and we've seen the whole thing. And now it's renewed for a season 2, which I'm so excited, because we'll get into all the other characters that are in here. But
if it wasn't renewed, I would like hate the show.
Yeah, no.
The end.
We'll talk about how it ends. If it was just if Apple canceled after one season, I think that it would.
I would
like
fully hate the show forever.
I think it would have like an internet riot behind it of people just being like, fuck
it would get renewed on like Yahoo.
Exactly.
It ends on like the cliffhanger.
It feels like the second to last episode of a season.
Yeah.
And you know what? Here's the thing. I thought that it was while watching it.
Me too. I didn't know.
I thought it was a 10
It's episode 9.
I thought it was a 10 episode season, like almost all of television is. Or 10 episode season of television. Instead, it's 9 episodes.
So let's run through some more cast, if you don't mind.
Yeah. As long as we don't get into spoilers.
Because there are only 10 people credited as being in every episode. A couple of which I didn't even think were in every episode.
I mean, this cast is fucking incredible.
It's It's really, really strong.
Patricia Arquette is just like another main character.
Yeah, and she's playing the most 2 characters of anyone.
Yeah.
She's acting
definitely the most.
She's acting the most in the show. I've never really loved Patricia Arquette because she does make strong choices and they don't always pay off, but like her being way over the top really just makes sense to me in this show because most people aren't doing that in the show, so it's fun that she is. Our base cubicle of people is just like infinitely strong. Like,
Zach Cherry,
John
fucking Turturro,
dude. The year of John Turturro,
with the Batman,
very, very casual Turturros in the cubicle. Really interesting character study. This man.
I love him.
Yeah.
And then Britt Lower, who ends up being kind of like the second lead.
Yeah. Season 2, it feels like will be like about her.
Yeah.
Like, and she was on Man Seeking Woman, which me and you watched a lot, Ernie, but she wasn't like a huge, you never saw it, Hunter, unfortunately.
We talked about it on this show.
And she was,
she's been in a ton of stuff, but it's she's never had like her moment.
Yeah, she's been working enough to be like well paid. It's just like, she's not a name. And after I really love her in this role. She's very well cast.
Has a great look. Like she just looks cool.
She's super well cast. She's also playing a character where it's like I don't want it to be someone that's more famous than this. Because like
there's a mystery to her.
Well, it's like this dual thing where she is our surrogate in a lot of ways, and yet in the pilot episode, also Adam Scott is our surrogate. So like we need to not know what her deal is because a lot of the show is like Adam Scott trying to figure her out.
Yeah.
So I don't.
Well, it's a great dynamic in those early episodes where we see her get severed, like we see the procedure, and she enters this system where she is the one trying to like budge against it. And Adam Scott is the one like trying to keep her in it.
Yeah.
And so he has to be like the kind of like the manager, like the overseer.
Yeah. Well, and not only like manage her and like show her like this is how you do your job, but teach her like this is why you should have like a reason to exist. Like tries to like basically also like instill a sense of purpose to her. Which is just the way like everything that we see with her character throughout the season is just like fuck, it's so good.
The two of them put together become the audience surrogate, basically. Like you can't have one without the other because you'd be like, really, you would hate the choices of one of them too much.
Also, the actual overseer, the actual like supervisor is Tremel Tillman.
Yeah. So that's who I wanted to bring. That is like the most star-making performance that I've seen on television in a while, where it's like I don't know who this guy is, but I want him in everything now. Like,
Yeah,
I think
he's incredible.
What he shows so many different layers in this show that I'm like, oh, he really could just fit in like any other project that I want him in. Like, he can
perfectly like
he's
charismatic,
so sweet, and
and terrifying.
And yeah, he has the perfect amount of eyes being sunken in. Where like if you light him a certain way, he looks really scary.
Yeah,
basically.
Well, it's like there's so many layers of genius to this show where it has a lot of it on its mind about like work culture and like how we handle ourselves in a work environment. Like obviously that's a huge theme of the show. And this guy, Milchick, is like the guy that is so into work.
Yeah.
Like he loves work
and
a
he
lot.
and he wears many hats, it would appear, at this office.
Right.
I would give him an Emmy right now.
Yeah.
For supporting actor. He's that good. He's like at least I would give him a nomination, like even though it's early in the year.
The dance.
dude.
I have that.
Brother.
I have that.
Oh,
yeah, that's
man.
in episode 7. Your mouth will be
Incredible.
as he
Yes.
says, I am agog at how well you're fitting it.
That's a stop what you're doing and glue your eyes to the screen moment.
Yeah.
Fully.
It's just it's phenomenal.
Also, Christopher fucking Walken is in this show.
Oh yeah, Christopher Walken just
He
gets
just
like
happens-
8th billing on this show, just hanging
Yeah,
out.
he literally just like wanders into the show and he's in like
Yeah.
every episode.
Yeah.
It's so cool.
It's phenomenal.
Yeah. So the cast rules in general. Jen Tulloch is Adam Scott's sister character, who's a really, really solid sister, and she gets a good amount of her own plotline as the season goes on. Her husband is this guy Michael Chernus, his name is Rickon in the show.
I love this guy.
This guy
Dude.
is really funny because this character almost sticks out like a sore thumb in the show, because this character is like just a comedy character for most of the show. He's just there to be like really over the top and silly.
So let's put a pin in a lot of this, because I feel like we're really stepping on spoiler territory here, because there's this book that he writes that leads into so many incredible things. So there's so much about this show that I want people to discover. And if you're not convinced already, what I'll say is that this show feels like one person's bold move to make something original, which for some reason is happening a lot this year, but doesn't happen often at all in just general movie TV world. Usually it's a Marvel thing or a franchise thing. We're in a moment right now where a lot of original things are happening.
Yeah.
And this feels like this guy, what's his name? Dan Erickson. Like he managed to break through and make something that is exactly the original vision that he wanted to make.
Yeah, it's a matter of being given power beyond writing the pilot. And a lot of credit there does go to Ben Stiller, because he sort of
he championed it.
Yeah, he produced, he helmed this, like making it happen. And yet Dan Erickson is the chief writer of every episode. He has writing credit on every episode. There's a staff, but he was in charge of what happened. And
they've talked about how Stiller actually was a big part of making sure that they didn't show all their cards this season, and that they kept a lot reined in to ensure that Apple would greenlight a season 2.
I mean, they really did. It is a thing that's so many shows like this kind of feel like they're just like blowing their load. They're just like, this is it.
Yeah.
We got to get all of our ideas out right now. Like we have to get everything that we have that's on our mind all on the same page right here, to the point where when things do inevitably get renewed for a season 2, you're like, you have a Westworld conundrum where it's like, okay, so you did that, now do it again, but do it different. And most shows fail to meet that promise in a way that, like, I think that season 2 of Severance has the potential to be better than season 1.
Yeah, we'll see.
Like, I really think that now that a lot of the groundwork is laid, I'm fascinated to see what is next for a show like this.
I will say, I think this might be the kind of show that you have to give it a couple of episodes. I do think that a lot of people might not vibe with the mystery side of it, because it is it is a mystery show at the end of the day.
And
you don't really know what's going on, and
Yeah.
that can be a frustrating watching experience to be episode after episode wondering like, all right, what the fuck is going on? So if you just go with it and you let the story play out the way they want you to experience it, you'll get a lot out of it, even though because I kind of felt that way at the first half of the season. I was like, all right, I like this, but I'm feeling frustrated that I'm not getting to any type of revelation on the other side.
Yeah.
And you do
I
get
that.
revelations.
That's
by
the
the
thing
end.
is, the show is really, really good at cliffhangers. First of all, almost every single episode, it'll reveal something just big enough that it keeps you happy, even if you're a little frustrated. I was really happy with the way that info was being dispersed. The main concern that I had was around mid-season. I wrote down like, I don't know how we're going to tie up all of this. And the answer is that we just don't.
They don't, right?
We tie up some plot threads, but not everything. It's not going to answer every question and tie everything in a neat bow. And I don't ever expect this show to do that. I would be kind of disappointed if
this
everything
is something.
did get
This is something
completely
we talked about when we talked about Hacks. How it feels good to see a show be a show.
Yeah,
like we don't need the limited series model every single time.
Yeah.
TV should be TV.
And shows are learning that there is life even after cancellation on one platform.
Oh, right.
You know what I mean? Like if you there is no way that this show couldn't exist somewhere after season 1, because in my opinion, it's taken just a little farther than I would even like in terms of like wait,
the reveals.
Well, no, just in terms of like that's the end of the fucking season. Like I was just like, give me like 10 more minutes of something. Like, fuck, man. But that said, I'd much rather have that than a show that is so sweaty and so afraid of the model of television making that it feels the need to compulsively tell you everything. There's so much fucking meat on the bone. There are massive questions left to be answered. That said, you're right, Ernie, in that I know a lot of people who don't like wondering things when they're watching something straight up. And that means that this show will never be for you.
Right.
Because this is a show where you have to have questions that just last and last. The upside of that is that I have so much trust in the people making the show that it's not a lost situation. It's not a like, oh, they're going to have to figure it out later. I think that
they have a plan.
Yeah,
they have a plan. Dan Erickson has already said he laid out 10 episodes of season 2. He knows exactly what's going to happen next season. It just watching this show, it felt like we were in good hands, almost like The Leftovers did. Even though The Leftovers had much more of that feeling of like, do they even know? Because The Leftovers,
that's the point of that show is not knowing.
That's the thing. It
more
makes
of the
more
Lynchian
sense.
thing where you're like, I don't want to know the answers.
And also
almost.
The Leftovers doesn't have so many gears turning like this show does. This show has a lot of like mechanics of TV going on, plot wise.
So there's like 2 points to that. Like one is that I think I'm kind of, being separated from it a little bit. I think I am happy with where the show ended up with 9 episodes, because I mean, we'll get into it whenever we get into a little bit of spoilers, but there is a little lull isn't quite the right term for it, because it's never like this show lost me. I never at any point was lost from the show. I was wondering if I wanted to keep going with it, but there definitely was one point around like Ep 5, Ep 6, where it felt like it was kind of spinning its wheels a little bit and kind of like, let's get going with it a little bit. And I think that if they extended it to 10 episodes, you might have felt that more, especially if they plotted things out as they were planning on plotting them out.
No, that's why I was saying like maybe 10 more
season.
Minutes, but I don't think I wanted a 10th episode.
Yeah.
The episodes are like not that long though.
Well,
right?
they vary in length. They vary between I think like 35 minutes up to closer to an hour.
What the fuck are you doing?
Are you playing Slow Horses right now? Are you playing? Is that Mank? Is that Mank? Oh my god!
I don't know why the show just started playing.
Hell yeah!
This fucking tech guy.
Another thing.
Turn a fucking TV show off.
Jesus. So like it. I do think that I do kind of like where it ended up with 9 because so many shows feel like they have to be every episode 48 minutes, 10 episodes long, and you can feel that this is a forced deadline that they have to meet. I love that Apple said, hey, just send us in the episodes, cut them at the appropriate moment to cut them and send them in, and only make it 9 episodes instead of 10.
Yeah.
Also, I cannot express to you how happy it made me that this show came out every week.
Yeah.
Right.
It was just a week-to-week model. I love that this show wasn't all binged. I think that really actually added to my enjoyment of this show, is that it didn't just all get dumped on a weekend. I binged through it, and then that was it.
It's
You get to sit with it.
Yeah,
and it's also
exactly.
It's also a couple other like spare thoughts before we get into spoilers, because we do need to get into the meat of it. But it really rewards second viewing. I watched, I think the majority of it a second time with my family, and I got them deep into it as well. You get a lot of like Easter eggs. You get a lot because we start really blind to what the fuck is going on.
Yeah.
But watching it again, you even get more trust in the show and the showrunners, because you're like, oh, they know exactly what's going on. There's so many little hints here and there of exactly what is happening. And then yes, you touched on this earlier, but like the themes of the show are very, very, they're pretty overt at times, but also there's so much going on that like it's easy to lose sight of them. It's almost like the show is marrying the ideas of like fascism and like religious fascism and like technocracy. Like it's basically just saying like the controller is bad. Like whoever they may be, whatever they might use, they're bad.
But it's not even just that, because it also gets into the self, like ourselves. Like how we communicate with ourselves.
Well, yeah, that's the thing, is that's like talking about it makes me like it even more, because how do they do so big and so small? And next season, the thing is, you got to feel like we're going to spend a good amount more time maybe in the outside world. I think we're going to get more into the big of like, what is this fucking world like?
I hope it doesn't.
What is Lumen? Like, what did they do?
I hope it doesn't get too much outside. I want it to.
Well, there's still plenty of reason to be inside.
Yeah.
Getting into season 2, there are so many loose ends.
Yeah.
I'm really happy that this show happened exactly how it did. It's it's already been speculated, but it really does feel like a show that a lot of people are gonna.
They're gonna find it.
They're gonna pick it up.
And catch up on it.
Yeah,
and this season 2.
This was brought up on friend of the pod podcast that I'm not going to mention, but I think I don't think that they're going to get too bothered by the fact that people might get ahead of them in terms of theorizing, because that's exactly what happened with Westworld. Jonathan Nolan became obsessed with beating Reddit.
Yeah, and that's it ruined the show.
He blew too much of his load in season 1 anyway. Like season, you know what I mean?
That show stopped being character oriented.
No, exactly.
The thing is that this show is always about the
because season 2 especially just became so like no, it's not just what we just learned. It's way bigger, man. Yeah. And it's that
I don't want this show to feel the need to like, we have to up the stakes. Like we gotta Bad Boys to this thing. We gotta have more explosions.
Not unnaturally. The thing is, naturally it's going to happen a good amount just because of what happens, and especially in the last episode, like things are going to blow up in season 2.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's going to become a matter of like them trying to beat us to a punch. I don't think that's not the main draw of the show. So they don't have to worry too much.
Well, I have a lot of thoughts on that, but we should get to spoilers. So this is your chance.
Check
out. If you haven't
Severance.
seen it, pause it and come back.
It really is one of my favorite.
Spoiled.
It's one of my favorite, and it's one of the most interesting like new pieces of television that we've had in a long time.
Yeah, it's well worth the time. So it's on Apple TV Plus. Check it out. Severance spoilers right now. Kind of going back to what you were saying earlier about the themes of the show. The main thing that came to my head that I wanted to bring up is there's a scene. So Helly tries to kill herself in the middle of the season. She tries to hang herself, and that's like a big kind of multi-episode little arc that we get in the middle chunk. And there's a scene in which she gets a message from her outie to her innie. And I keep thinking about that because
it's fun. It's fun to watch knowing what her deal is.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, not only that, not only like who her character actually is, but like just what she says in that video. I keep thinking about the fact that she says like, you're not a person, you know, just that alone. Like, I think that this show has so many things on its mind, but one of the biggest things that I keep thinking about is that scene, because we're presented with this idea that she's talking to a different person. That if, for all intents and purposes, the innies and the outies are different people with different lives.
Yeah. It's established.
But they're not.
It's established early on that most of the time when you try to tell your outie you want out, they don't let you because they're like that's not my problem, bro. I'm sorry.
Right.
Yeah, you're like,
That's not me.
I signed up for this for one reason or another.
They're in there because so I'm not.
They voluntarily severed themselves, and there's a reason why.
Yeah.
And the thing that I keep coming back to is that like there's something as a viewer that tells you that you understand why she's saying this. You're not a person. You don't matter. You know, I matter out here and you're just the innie, and whatever happens to you doesn't matter. And I think that the thing that I keep thinking about, at least what this show wants to at least bring up, maybe not dive into as much as the other stuff, is that like we talk to ourselves that way all the time. This is not a far-fetched sci-fi concept. This is something that we do to ourselves every day. We talk to ourselves like this every day. We look in the mirror and we try to convince ourselves that we deserve less than.
Yeah.
Well, not even just that. Like, what this show is like really trying to capture, like at its core, is, and not to go like all like philosophy minor on you guys, but like this whole like identity of self, and like not just like how we view ourselves, because like it's not that black and white. We don't view ourselves as I'm this person. We view ourselves as a multitude of different people with a multitude of different facets,
depending on our surroundings,
depending on our surroundings, that we will only let out certain sides of ourselves whenever we're around certain groups of people, or around your coworkers versus like your close friends. Or
oh no, I let my
innie
out with my outie friends.
Yeah, you never mix your innie and your outie friends. But like that's what this show is like really trying to like mull down. And what the outies are is basically saying like, you are just that voice in my head. Like you aren't anything. Like I can dismiss you.
Right.
And what the show is doing is taking that little sliver of you, that piece of your personality, instead of making that identity of self just one of many aspects that makes you, breaking that off completely and making these two separate living entities from each other. But they also aren't. They also do still share the same flesh and blood at the end of the day. Right. But what it would happen if we truly did separate these ideas of self out? What if like every different version, every aspect of you that I showed, like I love movies. I'm on here, TV shows, doing this podcast. What if this version of me and the person who's reading PFF articles about like the best last minute bets to make on the NFL draft right now, we're in two different like headspaces right now, completely severed from each other.
It's a matter of compartmentalization, and it's a matter of how much of us is tied to experience, like how much of what we are depends upon what we've been through versus just like our makeup chemically, like our physical and chemical makeup.
Which there's been a ton of stories about that. You know, you can find so many.
And it's also it's sort of fun that it came out when it did, because the whole work from home era, the quarantine era, has made it so we can't compartmentalize anymore. Like
everything is kind of collapsing in on
yes,
itself.
and so I mean that's part of many reasons why this has caused a lot of people to have sort of identity crises where they're like, well, I'm not around anyone anymore. Like, what am I? Just I don't have experiences anymore at all.
It all blends into itself.
Work me just is home me, and neither of them do anything. So what am I?
Exactly.
It has.
That's why this show is like, it's just a special moment for it to exist, and they didn't even intend it for it to be like that when they made it.
Yeah, it was written years ago. But yeah, it's really, really well done how they are able to break that down through different characters, and we still, we said, we still have so many other characters to figure out why they decided to do this insane thing. Mark, we know why. Mark thinks that he is doing himself a favor. He is basically giving himself another life. He's saying, now there's a me that doesn't have to deal with a dead wife.
Who just doesn't have to
so he thinks that the him that's in there is like, that's the real Mark, basically, and like
because he's not in pain
and
all the time.
Mark is just like a husk of a man.
Mm-hmm. We're having some issues here. No. I think the dog knocked this whole thing over, and now it's like fucked up.
Oh no! Oh well, I can hear myself.
Okay, we should be good.
Okay.
So we have that. We end up getting more from other characters, and one of the best choices script wise is that the I guess you would call them middle management, Patricia Arquette and Trammell.
She goes rogue.
I know, but they are not severed.
Mm-hmm. Which you wonder about throughout the season. You're kind of
you find out late. Yeah, you find out mid-season. The thing is, I knew with Patty Arquette, just because
the whole nanny thing.
Well, just because her being Mrs. Selvig, she is so clearly evil. Yeah. She also that is the most over the top shit. Like she is doing when she's Mrs. Selvig, she's doing like a transatlantic accent.
It's insane what she's doing. In that character.
I wrote down one of her lines as Mrs. Selvig. I don't even remember the context, but she goes, "Oh, Jack Frost certainly needs some new dandruff shampoo."
Also, she has a whole altar of what's his name, Mr. Lumen.
Yeah, so that is the other component of this is once it doesn't really apply to Patty Arquette because she's not severed, but once you remove someone's history, you're much more able to shape them into what you want because so much of our identity is tied into our history. And so the way that they do that at this company is they try to make all these employees worship the company as gods. They worship the Egans as if they were gods, which again ties into there are a lot of parallels with government. My parents both pointed out that a portrait of Keir Egan that shows up a lot in the show is identical to a famous Lenin portrait.
Yes, I clocked that too.
Yeah, like not close. It's like identical. Yeah. It's very.
There's also a Steve Jobs and a Tim Cook too.
Yes, there's that. Yeah. There, the statues.
The font is like, especially right at the end. The big like displays.
There's so many purposeful.
At the end is
it's just like a fucking Apple.
Yes,
exhibit.
So
like,
I think it's essentially if we're doing a tidy read on this, it's saying that technocracy is the new type of fascism.
Right.
Because
Zuckerberg, Musk,
because it gets in
Bezos.
Because it starts with how religion has been used historically. The way that art is used to manipulate these people's ideas of each other in the world. Like the Chris Walken's character, he disseminates art that is just to make these people think things. It's to spread lies and rumors.
The uprising painting.
Yeah, literally. That is like very classic Christianity stuff.
Yeah.
But then on the other opposite side of that, you have the discovery of our guy Rickon, his book
Incredible.
gets left there as almost this like
can we
counterculture other. So I have some I have some excerpts pulled up here. Don't you worry about
shit.
that. So to set this up, what's the order of events here? So Patricia Arquette like finds the book, brings it with her to the office.
They drop it off at his doorstep, and she immediately intercepts it.
Yeah, she immediately gets it and brings it to the office. Then who I don't know. It gets like left behind. Somehow they find it sitting in office space.
Tremello's reading it, and then like the alarm goes off because Helly is trying to do.
That's right. Okay, so then it gets discovered at that point, and they stumble upon this book, and this is like the new, like the alternate word of God. Like this is the other,
it's like Station 11.
It's just the only thing they've ever read.
Yeah, it's
like
just the one thing.
This random piece of literature that would otherwise
which
just
is like
be
awful.
It's literally like the worst thing that you've ever seen.
Self-help book.
Yeah, it's a self-help
Rickon is
book.
full of shit.
Yeah,
Rickon's a fucking idiot.
Here's a few.
I mean,
quotes.
he means well.
Yeah, no, he's not a bad guy, but he's dumb as fuck.
No,
Right.
he's just a classic guy who definitely grew up like pretty rich enough, and he's like, yeah, no, I can definitely write. Like, I'll write my own book.
Yeah,
about, like,
corporate
how I'm not how I'm happy.
Empowerment.
He thinks that he is so woke.
Which this is, I should say, this show is not afraid to be funny. For as
This
serious
was the
as
funniest
it is,
part.
this is incredible. It's read very dramatically, including like phased in writing.
Yeah, big
on while
text
they're doing
on
it.
screen.
Here's
yeah.
a few of his quotes. What separates man from machine is that machines cannot think for themselves. Also, they are made of metal, whereas man is made of skin. This is my favorite. Bullies are nothing but bull and lies.
That's so cool.
They can't crucify you with your hands in a fist. At the center of industry is dust.
That's the one for me.
It's like Xavier Renegade Angel.
It's so fucking good. Like, I was just like, because it's at a point, it's right after like the discovery of Helly trying to kill herself. And like, Mark is just like, I just need to find a sense of purpose in life. And he comes across this book, and it's the dramatic reading is so good. Just fucking killing me.
Here's a little more. You think you need your job, but I've lived abroad as a vagrant, abstaining from my own money to rely on the charity of strangers. Most were beggars themselves, yet they were happy. And so, for that summer was I. Your job needs you, not the other way around. So this became the New Testament
pretty much.
these innies. Because they don't have any other books other than whatever was approved by Lumen.
Wait, here's one more. The sun killed me. A society with festering workers cannot flourish, just as a man with rotting toes cannot skip.
So
just
so that owns
incredible.
It really, they're
Bad
already like
guy.
halfway to being radicalized, and that just sort of like spurs them on even further.
Yeah,
because
it sets the stage for the back half.
yeah,
of the season.
and by the way, front half of the season, we're dealing with a massive plot line of Mark coming into contact with his former best friend at work, Petey.
Yeah,
for
Yul
for-
Vasquez.
Yeah,
we forget about that
the entire
by the
first
end.
half of the season. There's a lot of Petey. Where
So this guy that's unsevered himself.
yeah, and that's who Helly's replacing at the office.
Yeah.
So it's all very tightly tied together. But yeah, he's somehow, with the help of like some sinister force, he has gotten rid of the brain implant, but it's really fucked his ass up. And also it's made him, he's on the lam. Like he is very
He's fucked. We know his
this,
days.
yeah,
are numbered.
because this company Lumen is just like Amazon on mega steroids. They basically just run the city that they're in.
Yeah.
So they're after him big time, and it eats up a lot of time, and it's really fascinating because you also learn about Petey's family. Like we get to meet them.
Well, it sets up the stakes in terms of why we should be doubtful of Lumen and why somebody may even want to unsever themselves, because we know for a fact that like at least Mark and Helly did this voluntarily.
And also there has to be a good reason why Audi Mark wants to, isn't happy with his inside job. He gets a lot of fucking information from this guy. And also he meets people and gets a lot of information that has to come back in season 2,
Right.
because it's not tied up.
Right.
The woman he meets with and then has to leave really quickly because she fucking kills
Oh my God.
the
that's
security
right,
guard.
The security
There-
guard.
There's so much plot that happens, and this is all just like
Yeah,
F5.
there's the whole
I forgot about that.
the
That's a whole-
protesters
Yeah,
like protesting against Lumen. That's got to come back.
Well,
around.
that's definitely gonna come back as we get more into Helly stuff because
they're so in the outside world, there's a huge anti-Lumen thing because they know that they're severing these people, and like anyone who's smart enough knows that that's a really easy way to get yourself some slaves.
Do you want to get into like your parents' theory over what they're doing there? Because that is actually like truly the smartest theory that I've heard for anything about. Because backing up a little bit, like these main four that we're spending most of our time with, they're working in something known as macro data refinement.
Yeah,
where they are just spending
the numbers
all
are scary.
day just looking at numbers, and then they have to find sections where the numbers are scary and put them in like a little box and like throw them away.
Well, so that rocks for a lot of reasons.
One, it's played for laughs at first when they're like we could be like living in a post-apocalyptic world out there and we're having to like clean out the ocean.
He thinks they're cleaning the sea, and then what John Turturro thinks that they're taking cuss words out of movies.
Which, that has some traction. Yeah. I can get behind that theory.
They don't know what they're doing. Their Audi thinks that they're doing something that's related to what their Audi actually is good at. Like Mark thinks he's working in like history because he was a history professor, which is very, very clever. But we don't find out what the fuck they're doing. My dad posited a really simple, just like Occam's razor theory that I was like, oh yeah, that makes perfect sense. Being severed is new technology. It clearly has some big flaws based just on John Turturro's character losing his fucking mind.
Yeah.
So my dad was like, well, what if the data that they're looking at is like inputs that they're seeing how this data affects their own brain implants?
Yeah, they're like trying to take out the bugs.
Yeah, they're beta testing themselves.
That totally checks out. You know why? Because, well, at what point did he come up with that theory? In the middle of the season?
Yeah, pretty early on.
Yeah,
he was like, what if it's just like them that they're working on?
That holds a lot of traction by the time you get to the end, because we find out that congressman's wife got severed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, she was severed
just
IRL
as like
to have a
she
kid.
just wanted to be severed because so that she could forget the pain of childbirth.
Exactly, which is fucking bizarre.
And then we find out we get grumblings from the Egan grandpa that like the ultimate plan is just to have everyone have this thing. Like
exactly.
That's why shit is going to have to hit the fan.
And also the fact that this whole notion of Severance is it's on thin ice, right? Like we know from Petey that it's not working, so obviously that has a lot of weight behind it too. So it's like we know that something's not quite right, and they need to poke at.
They don't have it figured out, and there are also like a lot of groups that are so anti this. Right. Like it's like a huge, because in real life it's not like everyone would just accept this. Like even if you want to create this world where it exists, if it's going to be close to our world, people should still hate it.
Look at how people reacted to getting a vaccine. I think people are just going to be happy with like, put an implant in my brain so that it separates me into two distinct beings.
Yeah. So we have to interact with that a lot. I would say it seems like almost the majority of people are anti-severance in the real world, which makes perfect sense, especially because the procedure is being done by the biggest corporation on earth.
The other thing that I was going to say is what probably the biggest twist. I think there's like two huge twists. I guess you guys can say which one you think is the bigger one of the two, but the fact that we find out that Mark's wife is not dead.
Yeah.
And that this version of his wife that's still alive may not actually be his wife. So like, there's like this presence of like other technology that Lumen might be working on.
It's just there are levels of severance, and she's perma-severed. She lives down there. Like she is thought to be dead, and she straight up lives in the basement.
Right.
Because that was something that was brought up by Petey really early in the show. He was like, there's a wing where they just have people, man. Like they're just fucking living in there. Like Inception style, the people who just live in the dream world. And so she is one of them. She has no outside life. We don't know how they managed to fake kill her and put her in there. Why?
Oh, well, my theory is that she is just a synthetic being.
Like she's like a clone of a human being. I almost took it in a slightly different way, which is that because I have heard that like she's because there's multiple versions of
Egan wants to be immortal. That's what these fucking guys always want.
Yeah.
So the way you achieve that is to beta test your immortality through other means, right? And I feel like that's kind of like the way you do it is you try to resuscitate.
Well, and this is Westworld.
Exactly.
Well,
there's literally there's that character in Westworld that's like trying to clone himself.
That's Anthony Hopkins' whole thing. Yeah, it's all a quest for, man's quest to not die.
Right.
Well, I think that I guess that they kind of work together, I guess, a little bit. But the way that I took that is you mentioned like perma-severed, that like what if you could just like clear somebody's brain, like you're just like clearing out space on the fucking hard drive or something like that, and like maybe there's some aspect to that like is restorative to you physically, like maybe that's something that they're looking into. But I think that is something that like that's what they're really getting at, is that like this woman who we're seeing here, like she has no personality. Like her life, she was basically reborn to just be a product of Lumen, and now that she made a mistake, she's going to be factory reset.
Well, yeah, like that I think is maybe, I think that's where I would end up too, actually, is like how does she die in the show? Do you remember?
They say it's like a car accident or something.
Yeah,
like
maybe she died, but to a point where it like her body is like reparable, like it's salvageable. It's not, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So they salvage it and then they just sort of reanimate her, but like
she has like
she just got nothing.
They took out her brain and put
she's
in
just like all implant
computer.
Yeah. That makes sense. It's I think that also makes sense because we're dealing with this weird thing where we would kind of rather see Mark and Helly end up together. That is set up throughout the season. They have rapport, they kiss, and then we find out about that his wife is that lady. So we're left to think like, well, what the fuck am I supposed to want here?
I'm not shipping them as much as I am Chris Walken and John Turturro, though.
God,
that's
man,
gonna be tough. That
was the most heartbreaking moment.
That's one thing that I called early on. I was like, I bet at least one of them is definitely like lives a very straight life outside. Yeah. And it's gonna like, we're gonna find out.
And it's just John Turturro just
alone,
painting scary paintings of an elevator listening to Ace of Spades.
Well, it's the same dark black hallway.
Yeah, it's the break room, isn't it?
Yeah. The path to the break room.
Yeah, it's like him having like horrible like flashbacks almost.
Yeah, which is terrifying.
Really
terrifying.
Another early season development is Mark going on 2 different dates with this midwife, basically. Yeah. Which I've heard people critique, like, why would she do that? Guys suck. Girls just go on dates with guys who suck all the time. Like, have you seen The Average Couple?
Also, we don't know what the landscape is like in this Lumen town. You know, Mark might be like best case scenario. You know?
It's just like people just end up with people who suck. Like, no, every couple actually is like a perfect match.
Do we have
most couples are awful matches.
Do we have any theories on where they are? Are they like Pacific Northwest? You think they're like Northern California?
I heard people saying like upstate New York, but I was getting
felt
like
West Coast to me.
I was getting like Seattle-y vibes just because that's also where like a tech giant would be.
Right.
It's also like very gloomy, like the outside world.
The trees are too tall for me to think New York, even though it is in New York. But yeah, it is. It's very gloomy. So the first,
maybe there's a lot of uggo dudes out there.
The first date is with this woman, is how it's revealed to us that there are these people, they run into the protesters who are correct in being anti-severance, and Mark is like, fuck you. The second date is things get a little superfluous. I think it was pretty cringe when they end up at the punk show and they're going like, fuck Lumen.
Yeah.
Like that was pretty cringe.
Yeah.
It's just like, I like the idea of Mark trying to get to know Petey's family. It doesn't lead anywhere, and it also doesn't seem like something that we need to revisit either.
Well, that's what I'm talking. That was the main point where I was like, what are we doing with this show right
Yeah.
now? Like, what are we doing here?
He doesn't have any connection to Lumen as an Audi. That's the thing, is that he, by design, is left completely in the dark. So when Petey comes along, he feels like, oh my God, this is a way for me to find out what I'm doing in there.
Yeah,
what's going on. It's like an innate curiosity.
I know.
So he just kind of follows that along.
The problem is more that like this daughter is established as a character like pretty definitively. I think it's an actress who might become something. She seems very, she was very fresh faced. And then she's just I don't it doesn't seem like she would come back. I don't really know why she would. She might. It was just interesting. Obviously, we do have to end up at Petey's funeral though, because we need Mrs. Selvig and Mark to be there.
Yeah,
and like
that's the moment.
Her to saw out the brain implant. That's all cool shit. But yeah, so these dates, they give us first information on Mark as a dude. Hey, second time's the charm, Marky. He gets in there. Then he ruins it immediately afterwards because, he's like
yeah, he just like leaves her immediately in the middle of the night and then just like gets back and is like, what, babe? I just got a glass of water, and she's like, you've been gone for 3 hours.
I feel like he doesn't use the severance as much as he could. Like he could play the I have brain damage because they drilled into me.
You have no idea how much it was driving me crazy while watching. I was like, you have so many excuses that you could just make right now. Why are you so bad at lying, my guy? Like because you don't have to say I just saw this woman I never met before kill a guy who I guess I know, but come up with some kind of a better excuse. Like, Jesus.
That actress, I mostly just wanted to mention because I think she's lovely. I think she's really, really good. She's another very measured, like
Nikki M. James.
It's a very slow, emotional performance. I think she did everything very smartly. So
I hope she comes back just because I really like seeing her. I hope that she comes back with more substance because unfortunately she doesn't really have a ton to do in this show right now. But
so that's because around then is where I was starting to get a little bit like, we're kind of not where we were when we started because we get that. And then we also, for everything I love about Devin and Rickon as a couple, it really felt weird to place an episode that is so dependent on Rickon just being annoying, like that far into the season where it's like ep 6 or 7. And it's like, man, there's really tense shit going on elsewhere right now. I don't need
when the baby's being born.
Yeah. It just felt out of place to have, the Rickon epic sauce time.
That's fair.
And
that's fair.
Like on the back half of the second act of the season. It felt weird to me.
The thing is though, is that this show finishes on such a high note.
Yeah, it all comes back.
Right.
The last 2 episodes in
it's
particular
6 and 7 is the
phenomenal.
lull, and then by the end of 7 is when it starts to be like, we're back. We're like end of episode 7 is when you get the reveal that his dead wife is Miss Casey.
Also, we haven't brought up Zach Cherry. We get the overtime protocol where he meets his son.
Truly terrifying. The way that whole scene is executed.
It's really, it's really well shot. It's really well. I mean, I guess it starts from the script where like we just open on how it opens for him, where he's just home all of a sudden.
It's
whoa.
It's like a hard cut to that scene.
Yeah.
There's not a big setup of like, we have to go, like we have to figure this out or something like that. Like we're hanging out, I think with Mark or something like that, and then just hard cut to Zach Cherry right there.
He's great in this. He hasn't had a moment to really shine before. He's always just kind of like the funny guy that gets like one little scene.
Yeah, and he's good at it.
Yeah,
he's really good at it. But yeah, in this show, A, he is that a lot of the time, and then B, he like the back half of the season, he gets to open up emotionally as an actor. He gets angry really well. He's really good at that.
Yeah. He kills it with that.
He's also him and Irving Turturro are a really good dichotomy of like how these people process being a severed person.
Right.
Because Dylan, Zach Cherry's character, thinks that Irving is full of shit with how Irving just fully buys in and literally, he worships the Egans how they want to be worshipped. He sees them as deities. They're his reason for living. Dylan doesn't see things like that. Like he thinks everything's bullshit. And yet
He wants to play by the book.
He still is obsessed.
He's playing for the perks.
He's obsessed with the perks. He's obsessed with the rewards. He's still doing
The Chinese finger trap.
He's still fully under their control, even though he doesn't buy in, which is a very good, it's a thing of like the silent acceptor versus like the full on like aggressive like acolyte. It was really cool to watch. They both end up on the same page late, which is nice.
They do a really good job at kind of like mapping different archetypes of who you might see in a work environment onto these characters.
Yeah, well, it's that, and it's mapping. I mean, kind of going. Not only like the religious aspect to it, but of just guys who like just trying to find their own purpose in life. Of just like people who just like go through life like because they're like, I am part of a higher power. I am serving this good. And other people are just like, yo, dude, I don't believe in any of that shit, but I'm just here for the fucking perks of living.
I'm here for the waffle party.
Yeah, I'm here for. Dude, I'm gonna don't even fucking think about a waffle party. That waffle party is mine. Like that type of guy too.
There is a fringe theory that. I don't know if this has any like support behind it in terms of like actually playing out, but some people are saying that John Turturro is like let me think for a second. They think that he might be like unsevered and resevered multiple times. That like because we get
why
a
he's
little
having like the weird
he like
effects.
Sees like this oil dripping out as he's like
he sees the opening
daydreaming
credits.
yeah exactly like there's this theory that's kind of gaining a little bit of steam of like the reason why we see what we see at the end with his character when we get a peek at his home life and there's like some lumen things that he's kind of looking into is I don't know, this might be like a huge swing from people trying to theorize here, but that he may be like intentionally severed, that he may be like trying to infiltrate lumen through Severance to uncover more about what's going on.
There's one line that like explained how I processed it, which is just like he literally is just like, it's not my fault that I got severed like late in my life, when Zach Cherry is like, you fucked up.
Oh yeah, you fell asleep.
It might just be a matter of like old people just like it's not worked out and they're all fucked up.
But there are little things in his apartment that he's like trying to find. That may just be his outie, just like not having anything else to do except.
He's very alone. He's very lonely.
And the implant just like doesn't work for old people. Like he's, it's failing in his brain because his brain's just old. I don't know.
I mean, this is kind of like tangential to that, but I do kind of want to we haven't yet mentioned the music for this
show. It's incredible.
And
I love the theme.
So good. I think the opening theme is like one of those. It's probably like my favorite new opening theme since Succession first came out, and like the Succession theme, where it's just like I can just hear like sing that theme in my head,
and how it swells in the final episode. The entire final episode is such a masterclass on every level, and what it does with the editing, how it's cutting between all these different characters, all their different storylines, and building that tension, and how we get the full theme just basically backing that entire episode, because we don't really get the theme in full at all in its full glory other than the opening credits. And then in that final episode, it really swells up because we're just ramping up all the tension. It's so effective.
Yeah, that all works. And then also they Apple like is willing to spend money on like real sound drops, like song drops in this. Yeah. And they're really good. Like the Daydream one is the best to me easily, where because it's the end of an episode. I was a couple behind when I watched it. It looks like PD just died and Daydream starts playing. Like it looks like he just died in Mark's shower. And the episode ends. It's phenomenal. Like it's so good. I like it when shows are willing to shell out a little bit of money. I'm willing to admit that does make it a lot better.
Yeah, I'm trying to see what else they got on the whole season, because there was a couple.
I mean, Ace
other
of Spades,
ones.
of course.
Right.
Yeah, that's a big one. I'm just looking at this guy Theodore Shapiro's.
Yeah, the music guy.
Yeah, the main composer, and he's kind of just a guy who's like been around for like 25 years, 30 years, just doing stuff. Did the score for Wet Hot American Summer.
Oh hell yeah.
But did a lot of like comedies, a lot of just different stuff. Yeah, he sang. that was him.
Nice.
But like he's just kind of a guy. He did the score for Trolls World Tour, of course.
Nice. All right, so here's the big question though, as we start to wrap up. Would you get severed?
Oh yeah, easy. Just for the pod, I don't want to know.
But see,
Then
that's
you
the
have to
thing.
watch
you have to
everything.
watch stuff.
Exactly,
Yeah,
that's the thing.
Yeah, so
is-
there's a me who just watches stuff and talks about it.
Man, I want to just like, can I like sever the other guy? Like, I want to just be.
Well,
this guy.
that's
Well,
how
was-
Mark views it.
Yeah.
I was thinking
he's severing his real self.
I was thinking about this because I feel like my Audi would be really well off because I wouldn't have to deal with any of this shit. I would like run around and play outside
be
and
outside. You'd be an
exercise and like
outdoors guy.
enjoy the world. But then my innie, the reason why I love movies and TV is because like I can interpret it through my life, through the world, through what's happening, through the conversations around it. Like in a vacuum,
No, I know.
all of this like would be meaningless.
You can't process art if you have no experience.
Right.
It would be like,
Yeah.
oh, this reminds me of when I watched this other thing.
When I connect when I connect with something, it's because I'm connecting with it because of something in my
Yeah,
life.
because of it, life
Like,
experience.
You liked
You're
Come On,
applying
Come
your
On
own
so
life
much because it
experience.
reminded you of beating up a kid.
Yeah.
Wanting to beat up.
Yeah, but
Jesus
definitely
fucking
not.
Christ.
Never laying a hand on him.
I did want to say, Jesus Christ, back to come on. It is one thing, and I'm still kind of conflicted. I'm still at like a point where I don't really know how I feel about it. And maybe it's the show will answer a lot more of these questions as we get into further seasons and everything else. But I think that more than anything, the one single like aspect of the show, like tonally, that I thought that it did really well was it was kind of an exploration of grief and like what it is to kind of just be able to just say, I don't want to feel pain anymore. I don't want to grieve.
Another part of me will deal with that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like
So I
if
don't
there
have
could just
to.
be 8 hours out of the day where I don't feel pain, that's enough. And that's incredible. Like that was kind of one of the things that first hooked me into this show.
But then early on, PD is like, you carry it in there. We can see it on your face. Like it's still,
Well,
it's
they
yeah,
still
say
in there.
something. Yeah.
Like there's still something happening.
There is
Yeah.
that, which is like exploring like what grief is. And then I'm kind of at this weird, like, so Mark now knows that his wife, the reason why he got severed to begin with, that she's alive.
Well, that was the other thing I wanted to ask is like this season ends on such a fucking cliffhanger where like
alive.
cut to credits. Like what happens next? Because
I hope
There's
it picks
so
up
many-
immediately. God, I hope that there's a flash forward.
there's so many
I-
ways where they could go with this because he screams she's alive. Are they going to know what he's talking about? Like, because he's immediately, all of them are flipping back to their
He's holding the
Outies.
picture.
yeah.
He
I
runs into the
think
room holding the picture and saying she's alive.
Selvig obviously knows, but she doesn't. The thing is, she's still in on Lumen. She's still in on the Egans, but she's like not in on Lumen somehow.
Yeah.
But I guess she
She's in a weird
left
spot by
because
the end of
she's
the
with
season.
Helly, who is an Egan.
Right.
She's at the press conference.
And that's the other huge
that's the
twist.
bigger thing where like
Yeah.
Helly just said to the world, like this
Severance
is all fucked up.
Yeah.
So shit has to get like pretty bigger picture next season.
I feel like they're gonna my gut tells me that they're gonna find a way to put everybody back in Severance and like try like for some in one way or another we're gonna get everybody back and it's gonna be a journey It's going to be like a very similar journey to this season, except the stakes are going to be much, much higher because there's going to be all of these other outside forces that are aware now. Like now Mark's sister knows that he screamed that. Now all the people that were at that event knows that Helly screamed that. Irving is banging at Walken's door. Like there's these outside forces.
And even if they recapture them, if they're their severed selves, they know everything that just happened. Like they're already fully radicalized.
No, dude, I'm telling you, they're gonna.
If they brainwash them, then I'm gonna be upset.
They're gonna reset.
Well, that's the thing.
They're gonna reset.
I don't want
that would suck to me. That would be like when Good Place did that, and that's when Good Place lost me. It's like the TV shows run on chemistry. You can't take it away.
But it's not that. It's not going back to square one. They're gonna reset them, but there's gonna be more stakes outside.
I know.
I don't know.
I just
like
want them to
a
know each
backwards.
other.
Yeah,
like that would upset me a lot. I could see it happening. It would just be a bummer.
I get what you're saying, Ernie, and like I
don't see it playing out for more than a couple eps.
Well, part of me
exactly. If it was like a short thing,
want that because I mean that's my favorite just part of the show is when they're inside of Lumen and just kind of watching this world dissolve around them, watching the hallways literally get narrower as the season goes on. Like everything is closing in on itself, but I think one of the things that I've respect about the show is that it kind of always was looking forward.
Yeah.
And going like the show does what you're saying, that feels like a backward step where I don't think that throughout this first season, it never makes any backward steps. It never felt like there's a little bit of walking in place, but even then it's not too much walking in place. It's more of just like putting the speed down on the treadmill a little bit from where we started out.
I agree with you though that there has to be some mechanism to make things not as big as they should be because the way we leave off things should get too big.
Do we think that
we don't want that yet? And I think the show doesn't want that.
Do you think it's going to lead to it's going to just be a flash forward in some kind of way that's going to be? I hope that it does. I hope that we pick up literally the moments that they flash back to their outie selves.
The reason why I keep thinking about that is like when you close your eyes and you think of Severance, what's the first image that comes into your head? It's that office, right?
Yeah.
So if they're not back there at all in season 2,
no, I know
they're gonna need to figure out something about that makes season 2 as iconic as that office.
See, that's the thing is they can put him back in. I don't want them to forget, basically. But the thing is, if you're doing that, then they have to be somewhere more high security. They have to be like in the dungeon
with the goats.
They gotta be with the goats.
That was so sick.
They just become the goats.
The goats thing was like a leftovers moment where it was just fully nonsense. And the dude's like, they're not ready yet. Don't take them away.
Imagine that's this guy's entire job is just to feed goats.
You feed goats like 3 miles deep into this like storage facility. It's so cool.
He doesn't know anything else.
I don't know, because that building is so limitless that like there are rooms, you know what I mean? It's almost like Cabin in the Woods style.
Yeah.
Like there could be any room in that building. You can really do a lot.
Are there people on like Reddit who have actually like mapped out, like done the map?
Oh, I'm sure. I haven't dug into it, but yeah.
Yeah, I honestly have not been on the Severance Reddit boards
are
to see
nuts. They are like freeze framing that map.
Yeah.
And like trying to like do a 3D model of it.
I'm gonna 3D print Lumen.
I mean, a hallmark of the show is really, really long hallway shots where you fully lose. They're meant to have no direction.
They're very slow at the beginning.
Yeah, they take like minutes. It'll be like 3 minutes of just walking through hallways, so you're just fully disoriented.
But then by the end, you have people sprinting down these hallways.
They know. Yeah, they when they figure out where they're at.
Well, I mean, that's your life is this one pathway. Then you're gonna have that shit committed to memory because it's the only thing that you ever do.
The other best directorial thing I think the show does is, I don't remember if I said this before on the pod, but in the office worlds, things are fluorescently lit, like they're too bright, so you're not comfortable there. But then when we're back in the home world, things are always too dark.
Yeah.
So we also don't feel good there.
Right.
Like it's the whole thesis of the show is like you have to have the happy medium. Like you don't feel good anywhere in the whole show.
Well, the office is inviting, but in a way that's like too inviting.
No, yeah,
it's like too nice.
It's too
clean.
It's too white. Also, just the way the show starts, like there's so much playing off of like 80s business jargon stuff, you know, which is just so fake.
Yeah,
like everything that he says to Helly when he's introducing her, he's like, "I think you'll be feeling right as rain."
Yeah, they have like the fruit party.
Yeah, exactly. It's
the
all
pictures.
There's a lot of like Gen X like cubicle hate.
Yeah,
but it all feels really fresh. It's just, I don't know.
Also, we haven't given a shout out to Aoife McArdle. Did I say that right? Aoife?
Yep.
Aoife McArdle is the other director.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
They directed a couple episodes that
only 2 directors.
That Stiller didn't. So yeah. Oh, the other thing I wanted to bring up, huge Christopher Walken link here, is this show has major click vibes.
Is this in the Click universe?
I don't know if it's in the universe, but it's definitely the same basic concept of like, let me just fast forward through the parts of my life that I don't want to engage with.
Yep, definitely.
So
it's
are we getting Sandman season 2?
Oh, that would rule so hard.
Oh my god. What if season 2 starts and they're like, we got to hire 4 new mass data refiners. And then it's like, wah, wah, wee, wah. Shows up with like gym shorts and just.
They just reload.
What I'm here for.
All right. In the event that this is a surprise anthology show, not a full anthology where it's just like a full reset, but like we just get a new set of main characters and we table all these characters. Adam Sandler, Lakeith Stanfield,
Maya Erskine is Helly. Is
nice.
Are you gonna throw Anna Conkle in there too? They're just like buddy bud the whole time.
And then, well, who's the old is?
Yeah, you need like a
because really Sandman is like PD.
Yeah, no, you need like
He's
a
too
Gene.
cool.
You need like a Gene Smart, like
Oh, there you go.
Yeah,
but she's like she's like Patty Arquette,
right? She's too
like
regal.
a new boss.
You aren't having her be the 4th guy in the squad.
Yeah, maybe more like a Sissy Spacek.
Ooh, that's good. Yeah, be nice.
There you
Be
go.
fun.
Ben Stiller, call me.
Dule Hill,
come on the show. He can fix that. Okay. Any other thoughts on Severance? Any other theories about where the show might go next? Any other big things that we didn't touch on?
I think you're onto something with the idea that something is going to rein things back in season 2.
We got to go back to the office in some fashion.
Well, we can't blow up the way that they set it up to blow up. They set the world up to explode with that finale.
Zach Cherry gets tackled.
Yeah, Zach Cherry's fucked. He didn't even get to go like see his kids. He was just there holding the door. They didn't even. Okay, let's pick and mix. Number 1, they didn't even measure arms when they were deciding who had to stay.
Yeah, what if,
that guy is struggling.
You gotta imagine Irving's got the wingspan.
Yeah, Turturro's a big fucker.
And Turturro's just like, I gotta go try and see my lover Christopher Walken on the outside.
Zach Cherry knows he has kids, and he's like, no, cool.
Zach Cherry definitely has a
penguin arm.
He has a negative wingspan.
Yeah.
My guy out here is falling to the 4th round.
That was the
wingspan.
most incredible feat of the entire show. Is that man?
Right? The whole episode.
Also, why did
everyone's going through really life-changing shit, and then it cuts back to him. He's like, just.
Why didn't they like get something, like have some kind of extender, something? Yeah, get some kind of a stick so you can just like be like chilling on one. And
here another nitpick that I think is really legitimate. They obviously they haven't been severing people for super long, but they've been doing it.
Yeah.
No one has tried to kill themselves yet. You haven't taken away all the sharp objects yet. Like I would imagine a lot of people would try to kill themselves if they got severed.
So
right.
I thought that was like a thing of like they want her to like try and kill her, like something like that. Because it was like, well, why did they intentionally just leave all of this there?
Exactly. They gave her every chance on earth to commit suicide, and she's like the one person they cannot.
You definitely don't want her killing herself since she's the daughter of the
thing
CEO.
is, the one thing you could say is that this isn't a very well-run company.
Oh, you don't say.
Yeah, management is pretty piss poor.
I would say it's unrealistic, but unfortunately, look at a place like Tesla, and you can see that sometimes a lot lot of the great.
This is what Brett does every day.
Yeah. Aren't very well.
No,
run.
we need to support the union, the Lumen Union right now.
The Lunion.
The
Lunion's trying
follow
to
at Lunion on Twitter.
It's I don't know. I was just like I was imagining that when she hung herself, we would find out that they had some sort of preventative mechanism where like she didn't really hang herself, but no, she really did fucking hang herself, man.
In hindsight,
like,
at the time we didn't know who she really was, but
I know.
In hindsight it makes perfect sense because the way I look at that is like, even though theoretically Severance makes your innie a blank slate, there's still something there.
Yeah, like I would imagine that like 1 out of every 4 people would beat a heli and just like be like fuck no and try to kill themselves.
But not even that they're a heli, that they're an Egan. Like that's the thing. That's the point, is that she, more than anybody else, does not want to be fucking in there at all, because she knows the full scope of the entire thing. Her dad is the guy. She knows.
So you think that there's some part of her brain, that's her severed brain, that just knows?
Yeah.
Really? So I didn't think it as that. I took that she was the one who tried to kill herself, because it's almost kind of like the opposite of that, where there's almost something that's submissive about like how Mark is in there. Mark doesn't know that he's
Mark's
in there
just
because
a pussy in real life.
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly. Mark doesn't know that he's in there because his wife on the outside died, but he's just a fucking beta dude who's just like,
he's like, yeah, but then I'll die. You know, if I kill myself.
Meanwhile, Helly, like, it's not like she knows that she's an Egan or anything like that, but she's like, I mean, you can tell from the last episode that she's like very much like knows her shit. Like she is like,
she's
taking.
She
says
full
that
control
she
over
took
herself.
charge.
So like
she volunteered from her father. Like, let me do this.
Yeah,
like
so
she's very, very
so
alpha.
she, if that personality were to just spawn with no memory, that personality would
go insane.
They
like,
would freak the fuck out there. You know, that's just someone who like has control.
Yeah, because you aren't changing personality traits about yourself. You're just changing your core memories.
By the way, that Mr. Egan, that scene, that was terrifying.
Yeah, no,
that man, like we saw like a wax figure of that man.
He looks more lifelike as a wax figure than he did moving around.
That actor, whoever that guy is, he nailed the assignment.
I kind of just thought of a theory as I was talking there for a second, but Miss Casey, Mark's wife, do you think, along with like thinking about completely like perma severing, do you think that they're experimenting with changing somebody's personality traits themselves that they have?
I'm sure. Yeah, I'm sure.
Like they're like, what if I can just not only factory reset you, but what if I can code you to just make you a machine?
No, it's again like Westworld. Like they probably have full knobs that they can fucking tweak about everything.
That you bring your personality over with you. Like Zach Cherry is just like a horned up dude who's just in like he definitely is like a very fun dad. Like I would love Zach.
I don't know.
Cherry to be
he
my
seems
dad.
pretty. We imagine that, but to get severed.
Well,
I would
he's like
imagine,
a fun detached dad.
I'd imagine that he's pretty checked out. Like when he's at home,
he's the type of dad who like you grow up and you're like, dude, I have like a great relationship with my dad, and then you go to therapy when you're like 26 years old, and you're like, God, do I have like a lot of issues with my parents?
He
is your dad severed?
I don't know that.
We got
Drew, do you want to talk about that or what?
No. we got to find out a lot about him and his outside life. There are so many things left to find out. Which is really impressive because we've already learned a ton compared to what we knew. Which, you know, that tracks because we've been through the same exact journey as our characters have in terms of like very slowly learning more and more information. But like I have faith in Dan Erickson. It's just like,
and Ben Stiller.
Season 2 is like the amount
we need it now.
It's just the amount of directions is like it's more than I've ever seen almost in terms of like they could get into so much fucking shit.
After seeing that finale, it shot up to like my most anticipated returning.
Yeah, because I've never seen a finale that was that was just like not a finale. It was like they just deleted the next episode.
The next shot, the next scene.
I know. I just need like one.
I can't believe how mad I was when I was like, God, dude, I can't wait for next week. And it was like, wait, what? That's
by the way, to satiate people in the meantime, Apple did release like a pamphlet from the world of Lumen.
I'm gonna tell you right now, I don't care about that shit. Not to say that, like I don't care about like having tangential material is fun.
It's like 25 pages.
It's cute. I like stuff like that. It's fun in its own right. But it's almost like, you remember when Blade Runner 2049 came out and they were like, hey, so we couldn't fit this in our 3.5 hour movie, but here's 45 minutes of YouTube clips of Jared Leto's character from Blade Runner 2049 to fill in the blanks. No, you had 3 hours to fill in the blanks. I'm not doing homework because you couldn't learn to fucking cut things down more. Sorry, tangent a little bit. I like in some instances
it would be a fun thing to like have more than more than it would be to even read.
Yeah, just something to like have on the table and then you kind of browse through.
Yeah, like, oh, you don't know about Lumen? Yeah, well, having company over.
Yeah, I'm here to talk to you about Severance.
Yeah, this is the language. Everyone will speak it.
And I would just want to go ahead and give a congratulations to our boy Adam Scott, who did win a Webby over the weekend for Best Actor. Congratulations for
Severance?
He won a Webby. Yeah, for Severance. I don't ask.
Severance was nominated at the Webbies.
It was nominated at the Webbies for being online.
A web show.
For being online.
All right.
It's a terminally online show, and therefore it got nominated for a Webby.
Well, thank you so much for tuning in, for watching, for listening. Let us know what you thought of Severance in the comments below. Stick around for catch-up and more cool things in the world of film and TV. And eventually we'll get back to our Robin series. We just had a lot to catch up on, including this amazing show. Visit our website and our socials and donate at webottomike.net if you so choose. Thank you, beautiful donors, for supporting the show. Feel free to recommend it and share it with all your friends. And we'll see you next time. Take care. We love you. Bye-bye.
Bye.